seem to get a lot better feedback when one of the crew comes out here and shares with you their own local knowledge. But it is up to you. Would anyone like the pre-recorded guides? Would anyone like a live commentary going up to Westminster? Yeah? A few of you. That's fantastic. As I say, folks, we're not tour guides on board these boats. We are your crew. If we was to make any mistakes, just please bear with us. But this is how it would have been received and done years ago before they introduced the pre-recorded guides. So we'll start over here to our left. We've got London's very own warship there. That's the C-35 HMS Belfast, the largest and fastest light cruiser that was built for our Royal Navy. Her main arms, where there are 12 6-inch guns, so 6 at the front, there are 6 at the back. Those guns capable of firing a 100-weight shell or a very naughty screaming child 14 land miles. Last fired in anger during the Korean campaign, she was the flagship for the D-Day landings. She was built in the famous Harland and Wolff shipyard, the same shipyard that built the ill-fated Titanic. She's now permanently moored on her anchor chains, an extension to the Imperial War Museum. Still to our left-hand side, you've got all these buildings here. This used to be known as the Larder of London. All of London's old wharves and warehouses converted into this new modern city. And it's called the London Bridge City. And standing in there we have Western Europe's tallest building. That's the Shard, or the Shard of Glass. It was designed by Renzo Piano, a famous Italian architect. The building itself is 1,018 feet tall. Inside the Shard, offices, apartments, the 5-star Shangri-La Hotel. On the 72nd floor there's a public viewing gallery. You can go to the top of the Shard on a clear day, see over 30 miles all around London. That's aptly named The View. Ahead of us we have the new London Bridge. It was opened in 1973 by Her Majesty the Queen. Before we go through the bridge, to your right hand side there's a gap between the buildings. Standing in the gap is a tall stone column. On top of the column, a golden ball of flame. Now this is Sir Christopher Wren's monument to the Great Fire of London of 1666. The monument, 202 feet tall, said to resemble a candle, as it was said a candle started the fire in the Royal Bakery. Now the new London Bridge, folks, opened in 1973, as I said, by Her Majesty the Queen. This replaced the old London Bridge, which was slowly sinking into the Thames and I. The old London Bridge was actually taken down stone by stone, brick by brick, and then it was taken across to America, where it now stands re-erected today over Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert. It was sold to the McCulloch Corporation for the sum of £1.5 million. To your left-hand side, between the gaps of the buildings, is Southwark Cathedral. Baptised in that cathedral was a young boy. His name, John Harvard. He later emigrated to America and was one of the co-founders of the Harvard University. Behind Southwark Cathedral, you can find the Borough Market, a traditional open-air market here in London, selling flowers, food from all around the world. A fantastic place to go to, folks. You can go and visit the Harvard Chapel in Southwark Cathedral, and then just behind the cathedral, the Borough Market. A lovely place, area to your left, Southwark. Now this is the Cannon Street Railway Bridge ahead of us. The tide at the moment is leaving London. This is called an ebb tide. If you look at the footings of the bridge, you will see how fast the tide is actually travelling out through central London. The River Thames, one of the fastest free-flowing rivers in Europe, has speeds of up to 6 to 7 knots through the bridges. As we come through the bridge, look in the corner of the bridge, you will see an old public house there with red window frames. This is called the Anchor. It was built 1615. It's over 400 years old. Many famous Englishmen have drunk inside the Anchor. Dr. Johnson, Samuel Pepys the diarist, William Shakespeare, Sir Christopher Wren. Myself and Sean, your captain, we go inside the Anchor most nights after work. But we go in there to conduct research, folks, and we research the commentaries that we provide you with. takes us hours and hours and hours. It's all for your benefit. Is it working? You enjoying it? Yeah? Okay. We might have to do some more research later. We come through the bridge, but the area to your left-hand side is Southwark. This was known as the Stews of London, London's red light and entertainment district during the Elizabethan era. This is where bear baiting, dog fighting, and many dens and cruel and illegal sports all took place. And it's where the theatres once stood of Shakespaere. And we have a replica there to your left, the white circular building, timber frame and thatch roof. A replica of the Globe Theatre of William Shakespeare. This is the only building in London to be made out of wood and thatch since the Great Fire. This was the brainchild of a gentleman called Sam Wanamaker. He was an American film producer and director. It took him over 20 years to get permission for that building. As I said, it's the only one to be made out of wood and thatch since the Great Fire. Young and upcoming actors, they do perform many of Shakespeare's famous plays with inside the building. It's an open-air theatre. If it was to rain, they will carry on their performance. They won't stop, and it's where they believe the saying, "the show must go on," first originated. The bridge, folks, the Millenium Bridge, better known as the Waterloo Bridge. If you look to the right-hand side, you can see there, dominating the skyline between the gaps of the buildings, a full view of Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece, St Paul's Cathedral. St Paul's Cathedral, 365 feet tall. The second largest unsupported cathedral dome in Europe, the largest being on St Peter's in the Vatican City of Rome. The architect, Sir Christopher Wren, is buried within the crypt of St Paul's, along with the Iron Duke, the Duke of Wellington, and Admiral Horatio Lord Nelson. Monday to Saturday, you can go inside St Paul's. It will cost you around about £25. It's completely free of charge on a Sunday. You can go there on a Sunday morning, you can sit and you can listen to the service that they produce in St Paul's Cathedral, and it's free of charge, folks. But just like most things, they do catch you. There is a man that normally walks around with a silver champagne bucket, and they like a donation, just like most churches in London, a small donation. But as you can appreciate, it's so quiet in St Paul's, they prefer a silent donation as a £5, £10 or a £20 note. That's St Paul's Cathedral, folks. These bridges, the Blackfriars group of bridges. Now there are two bridges very close together and they form a light tunnel. We refer to this tunnel as our very own tunnel of love. Legend has it, if you turn to your loved one as we go through this tunnel, give them a kiss, you'll be granted many, many years of happiness. So don't be shy, folks, turn to your loved one. Now if you're not on the boat with your loved one today, you can turn to your husband or your wife, it's the same thing. If there's any single ladies, I'm available. Any single men, now Captain Sean, very open-minded. I'm normally standing the other side of the barrier when I say that. We come through the Blackfriars group of bridges, folks. This one, the Blackfriars Bridge, opened in 1869 by Queen Victoria. If you look on your right hand side, you'll see on the embankment wall there, Bazalgette embankment. Tunnel 48 metres below. The civil engineering project, all the cranes, the barges, the tugs here. A massive project upgrading our old sewer system. Joseph Bazalgette, he designed the old Victoria embankment. That's where the old sewer system runs. It was designed for a population of 2 million people. They reckon there's over 10 million people in London today. So from Putney in West London down to Beckton in East London, a tunnel 48 metres beneath us, and overflows for the old Victorian sewer system. To your left hand side now, you'll see there a red brick building. On the roof of the building there's a tower. In the windows of that tower it spells out the word OXO, O-X-O. This is the OXO Tower, and it's owned by the Vestry family, who invented the famous OXO gravy granule cube. At Stamford Wharf, at one time a cold meat refrigerated warehouse, this is now luxury riverside apartments, And at the top of those apartments, where you see the glass roof, a Harvey Nichols restaurant. That's a very expensive, but a very nice restaurant to go to. Owned by Harvey Nichols, it's voted within the top 10 restaurants here in central London. But keep looking to your left. Look, I bet there's folk you never thought you'd see here. Look closely. There's a golden, there's an almost tropical sandy beach there. The South Bank Riviera. Who needs the Bahamas or the Seychelles when you've got a beach like that in central London? People sunbathing, children, look, going down to the river's edge, playing in the polluted Thames. It's a typical family day out here in central London. And it's free. That's the South Bank to your left-hand side. But to our right-hand side, on the embankment wall, there's a stone archway. On the front of the archway is a face of Old Father Thames. Now the archway is a boundary. It divides the City of London between the City of Westminster. You'd see the two silver griffins either side of the roadway there. They guard every main entrance into the 1 square mile City of London. Temple Gate, Aldgate, Newgate, Bishopgate, all the gates that go into the City of London. So we're leaving the City of London and we're ventured into the City of Westminster there to your right hand. The white vessel, that's the Wellington. She's a former sloop for the New Zealand Navy. She's now a drinking club for all master mariners, that's retired sea captains. The President, Prince Charles, the Queen's son. And while we're on the royal family, the black and white vessel to your right hand side is called the St Catherine. She used to be the former royal barge on the River Thames. Any time the royal family had any business to conduct, they'd use that vessel we see there to your right. The new royal barge is called the Gloriana, painted in gold and red, and she's moored further downriver in St Catherine's Dock. Taking your attention to our left-hand side, you've got the concrete construction there with a flashing, illuminated signboard. That's our National Theatre. There are 3 theatres that make up the National, and the largest of the 3 is called the Olivier, named after Laurence Olivier, one of the co-founders of the National Theatre. The building, unfortunately, gets voted year after year by London's leading architects to be the ugliest building on the banks of the River Thames. The bridge, folks, the Waterloo Road Bridge. This is affectionately known as the Ladies' Bridge. The reason being 85% of the labour force on the reconstruction of this bridge were in fact female. Built during the Second World War when we had a shortage of male labour, it was built by the Land Army, the Ladies of London. Opened in 1945, and when it's opened, and still to this day, it's the longest bridge, a quarter of a mile long, to span across the River Thames. Still to this day, it's the only bridge to have been built by women, and that's on time and under budget. So well done to the girls. To our right hand side, yeah, give yourself a round of applause, why not? I say, my mum always tells me if you want a job done properly, get the girls to do it. To our right hand side, that's the Savoy Hotel behind the trees with the single flagstaff, one of London's 5-star hotels. But on the embankment wall here, if you got your cameras folks, you could see there the large stone granite column guarded by the 2 sphinxes. This is the oldest thing in London you will see. This is Cleopatra's Needle, given to this country by a thankful Egyptian government for Nelson's victory over Napoleon at the Battle of the River Nile. As I said, it's reputed to be over 3,500 years old. They was built in pairs, in twins, and the twin to this needle stands in Central Park in New York. To our left-hand side, behind the trees, we've got the Royal Festival Hall. This is the last remaining feature from the Festival of Great Britain back in 1951, a post-war morale-boosting festival. Many famous artists have performed inside there: Frank Sinatra, Pavarotti, Tina Turner, to name but a few. Completely soundproof, as it stands next to this very noisy railway bridge. But incorporated into the bridges, the 100-foot footbridges. Anyone walking across there will make a bit of noise, give them a wave, get a wave back, said to get 5 years of good luck. If they don't wave back, that just means they're from London and not visiting. There's another footbridge the other side. Let's see if we can get some more waves off of this bridge here, folks. There you go. There's not that many happy people in London today, is there? Hey. When you come through the bridge, there's another hotel to your right-hand side. That's Whitehall Court Benjamin's, the Gothic-looking building behind the trees. This was once the home of the National Liberal Club. This was also the office for Winston Churchill during the Second World War. It's now part of the Royal Horse Guards Hotel. And most of your attention is drawn to the London Eye to your left-hand side. But a few places that get overlooked to your right-hand side, behind the trees there. Well, the first one, the old paddle steamer here, the Tattershall Castle. She used to be a ferry up on the River Humber. She was brought down to London originally as a floating art gallery. Never made much money as an art gallery, so they converted it into a public house and nightclub. It made more money in the first weekend as a pub and nightclub than the entire year as a floating art gallery. Just goes to show you what sort of artists we've got here in London. But before we go across to the London Eye, I like pointing out the Golden Eagle here to your right. That's the RAF War Memorial. It commemorates all the airmen and women that lost their lives during the First and Second World Wars. Its beak points due south towards the shores of France, where many of them women and men lost their lives. But the London Eye, folks, the Millenium Wheel, 450 feet tall. It was originally sponsored by British Airways. There are 32 capsules on the London Eye, and 32 is not a random number. They represent the 32 boroughs of Greater London. And when you're at the top of the eye, you should be able to see all 32 boroughs. As I said, originally sponsored by British Airways, it's now being sponsored by lastminute.com. And they tell us, folks, that you can actually hire out one of those capsules for £1,000, and you can actually get married on the London Eye. I wouldn't recommend it though, marriage, but you can get married on the London Eye. Yourself, your bride-to-be, 23 of your guests, you join at the bottom. The only time they stop the London Eye is when you get right to the very top at the 12 o'clock position. You say your vows, ladies and gentlemen, and just like my marriage, it's all downhill after that. But nevertheless, let's go on, move the subject. The building to your left is the old County Hall, the former offices to the Greater London Council. We've got a bit of time here, folks. We don't normally do this, but we're going to just take you up through Westminster Bridge. A lot of the time, the tide is either too high or too low for us to get underneath Westminster. You'll see there, the yellow posts, they're height marks. This is one of the lowest bridges that we will pass on any journey on the River Thames. So at high water, it's too high for us to get underneath. At low water, not enough depth. We have two tides every down the River Thames, so the rise and fall of between 6.5 to 7.5 metres. At low water here, there will be about 1.2 metres of water. So very low at low water, and high water, 7.5 metres. But Sean has done his calculations correct, and we've got enough height to go through the bridge and give you a really nice view of the Parliament building. This is the Palace of Westminster, to our right-hand side, folks. It is a palace, it's owned by the Crown. We refer to this building as the Houses of Parliament. That's the seat to our British government. If you look closely on the Parliament building, between the very two tall windows you can see coats of arms engraved into the stonework. They're coats of arms of all our reigning kings and queens, reigning monarchs over the years. Just beneath the very tall window, there's an inscription once again, a thin band. You can see that just beneath the very tall window. It goes all the way around the building, and engraved into the stonework, our Lord's Prayer in Latin. It completely surrounds the entire building, and it was designed in that way to ward off all evil spirits. We have the hospitality tent, the green and white tent here for the House of Commons, the red and white, the House of Lords. Years ago, the Lords and the Commons would never ever meet. Westminster Bridge is where the MPs would walk across, that's green. Lambeth Bridge ahead of us is red, and that's where the Lords would walk across. So they had never crossed paths, and they still don't to this day. A small tower with a set of stairs going down to the river's edge here, to your right hand side folks. That's Blackrod Tower and Blackrod Stairs. It's the smallest prison in the world. That was a one-man holding cell. If you was found guilty of treason at the Palace of Westminster, you was kept in that tower for your last night before being picked up by barge or boat and rowed down river to the Tower of London, where you would have awaited your execution. So that's Blackrod Prison, the smallest prison in the world. The Victoria Tower, flying the Union flag there. That's the main entrance into the for the Queen will take any time that she visits the Parliament building. And we're going to turn the boat around now, folks, when we've got a clear eye. And as when we turn round to our left, this will be the picture you want to get when we go round, because as we go round you'll get the Parliament building and you will get the Elizabeth Tower in your picture. Now, can anyone see Big Ben? Can anyone see Big Ben? No. It's a bit of a trick question really, because that's the Elizabeth Tower, folks. Big Ben is the nickname of the 13.5-ton bell housed within inside the tower. The bell was named after Sir Benjamin Hall, who was the commissioner, the master at works at the time the tower was being built. So this is the photograph. Now, if you've come on board the boat today and you haven't brought your camera, you need to really ask yourself, why have I come on a sightseeing tour without my camera? But if you would like that picture, folks, that exact picture, do not worry. When we go alongside Westminster Pier, just at the top of the road, there's a Tesco's. Go and get yourself a bottle of HP sauce. Houses of Parliament sauce. You tear the label off and that's exactly the same picture you've got there. And that's what it means, HP sauce. Houses of Parliament sauce. There you go. So the tower, going back to Big Ben though, it was named after, the bell was named after Sir Benjamin Hall, who was the commissioner, the master at works at the time the tower was being built. So as I said, we all refer to that tower as Big Ben, but Big Ben, the nickname for the 13.5-ton bell housed within inside. But one of London's best kept secrets and hidden facts though, folks, was that Benjamin was not his first name. That was in fact his middle name. His first name was Richard, but they thought it a bit inappropriate to call that bell Big Rich. I'm glad some of you are on my wavelength. Welcome to London. If you want to know the answer to that question, just ask me at the end as you leave the boat, folks. Once you've taken your photographs, and by all means take your photographs, can I just ask you to find a seat and just remain seated, ladies and gentlemen, until we're safely alongside the pier. As I said, once you've taken your photographs, can I just ask you just to remain seated until we're safely alongside the pier. We're going to turn the boat around again and we go alongside Westminster Pier. Journey information, folks, we stay alongside Westminster for about 10 minutes. When we leave, we go across the river to the London Eye, and then we go back